Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today, we go deep with excellence is my love language. That's Catherine Hernandez-Blades, one of the top CMOs in the world. Forbes has recognized her as the top 50. She goes into how do you bring purpose and profit together. We actually dive into, I can't wait for you to hear the story about my Aflac Special Duck, where she took that brand to pediatrics, to kids who are going through cancer, and having doctors and kids connect better together. This is a deep conversation. We're going to learn about not only high performance, but how to make a difference in the world. Here we go. Ready? Hit it. Hey, everybody. I am so excited to have Catherine Hernandez-Blades here. Catherine, we have a little bit of a background, but more importantly, what you're doing out there in the world and what you continue to do for women and everybody has blown me away. First off, just welcome to the High Performance Zone.
Thanks so much. I am delighted to be here. As we were just talking, excellence is my love language. So thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Catherine, I think you just titled our podcast, Excellence is Our Love Language. Hey, what inspires you, by the way, when we talk about excellence? You know, you also talk about purpose. What is it that drives you?
Well, I am a corporate wonk. I have worked at Fortune 500 companies for most of my career. Yeah. And what I am most passionate about is not just the people development, but the impact that corporations can have on the greater good. I live at the nexus of purpose and profit and love it.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about impact, and by the way, Operation Homefront, I know you have a big part in, but I agree with you. I think that's what gives me, probably what gets me up every morning, is to be able to talk to leaders, to be able to talk to corporations that are really impacting the world in such a positive way. Give me a little background. Which company you started with? I know you've been in the defense industry. We have Lockheed, we got Raytheon Space. There's so many, but give our audience the background of how you have made such an impact already.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. From a career standpoint, I actually, as a kid, always wanted to be a broadcast journalist. I would run around with a fake microphone and a little fedora that said press, interviewing people as a kid while other girls were dancing around like princesses and tiaras and ball gowns. And I didn't blend. Did that actually when I was 19 years old. I was getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's a little redundant. I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and producing a morning news program called Good Morning Acadiana.
Wait, what was it called again?
Good Morning Acadiana. It was an ABC affiliate. We did news and weather in English and French.
Wow.
And taking 21 hours a semester so I could keep my full ride scholarship. It was absolutely crazy. All I ever wanted to do, achieved that dream very early, and then realized that sometimes what you get that you think you want isn't actually as rewarding or fulfilling as it could.
When were you? What age were you when that became that aha hit you?
I was 21, and I watched a news director have a very public, ugly situation. I'll call it a nasty meltdown toward other people. And I thought, I don't want to be that in 15 years, right? So did a little soul searching. Corporate communications found me, thankfully. And except for a brief hiatus when I went to run a government agency in the state of Louisiana by gubernatorial appointment, I've been doing this ever since. And I've been very lucky to work with those brands you talked about, 10 years in aerospace and defense, then IT with Flextronics. I was their first CMCO, then went to Aflac as their CMCO and ultimately their chief ESG officer as well. And now I'm at SAIC, which I love. I'm back home, the mission-driven, values-driven organization. Not that these others aren't, but there's something about working for your government, which means you're working for all of its constituents, that you don't replicate anywhere else other than in this industry. And it's a very, very powerful and motivating thing.
Well, you know, I was researching SAIC and I'm reading the vision and the mission. And it is so much in line with the Blue Angels. I think back to what did we do on the Blues, and we call ourselves ambassadors of goodwill. Did you ever hear that before? Did you know that?
I did know that. Yes, I'm a fan. I'm an airplane geek too, because of my time at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics. I know you guys did not fly F-16s, but I won't hold it against you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now we got the Joint Strike Fighter together, right? The F-35. So, but being a woman in the Defense Department, and one thing that blew me away, okay, is you were the youngest female executive, I think, in the Defense Department at that time, right? Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I was the youngest director at Lockheed. Yeah,
that's it.
At that time. It's
amazing. And then, but it doesn't just start there, right? You continue to break those barriers, and it really amazes me. What is the secret sauce? What is it that makes you so special?
Oh dear. Well, that is the kindest compliment I think I've ever heard. I think, it all comes down to really caring about your people, and making sure that they are the best that they can be, and setting them up for success, making sure they have the tools they need, making sure you're communicating very, very clearly. Don't overcomplicate the issue. You want to go from point A to point B, you take these 3 steps. You're there. Don't try and engineer too much into it. Wow, that was quite a compliment. I will tell you, I'm going to pivot that off of myself and tell you about the best boss I ever had.
There you go. Thank you.
Gentleman by the name of Jon Jones. He was my boss at Raytheon, and he passed away suddenly. Otherwise, I'd probably still be working for him. He was so brilliant. He took the first missile from analog to digital in his head.
Really?
I mean, just this, but understood the value of people. And so Tommy Kennedy, who later became the CEO of Raytheon, and I were actually peers. He was running the AESA program. I was running communications for John. And when we went into the senior staff meeting Monday mornings at 9 a.m., we all had an equal vote, because he wanted that diversity of opinion, that diversity of thought. And if you weren't speaking up, it was, hey, John, what do you think about that? What's on your mind today? That ability to engage and create inclusivity and belonging before DE&I was a thing.
Right.
He not only made me a better professional or a better leader, he also made me a better person. And that's all anyone can ask.
Well, it's amazing. You talk from your heart. You can feel that. What were those meetings like? How did, what was the structure of them first?
Well, engineering culture. So there was a gate review process for everything. Okay. And it really depended on what was going on in the business at the time, whether there were HR initiatives, whether there were communications initiatives, whether each executive got to go around the table, much like the Blue Angels do, and talk about not just performance, but what's next as well. So a lot of ownership in those meetings.
Well, I'm getting to your 4 E's, right? Let's talk about your 4 E's, because we talk about engagement, and it starts with the 4 P's. Now, remember the 4 P's of marketing? Tell me those real quick, because I want to show
price, product, placement, and promotion.
Yeah, I remember, when I heard that, I went to business school. I don't know if you knew that at Stanford. And I went, they didn't resonate with me, to be honest with you, in my heart, and I said, well, what else can we do? So I've got the 4 P's of beliefs, and then I want to get to your 4 E's. Okay. So the 4 P's of belief that I found in any organization, right, is the first thing we want to believe in is our people, right? Which you mentioned that too, The second I found is, you have a product or a service you have to be able to do, but it's more about the process, right? And then the 4th one is the most important, and that is a purpose, and a purpose higher than self. So I've actually pivoted when I talk about belief levels, to those 4 P's. First off, tell me about how that connects with your 4 E's.
Well, it's interesting, and it all came about, frankly, as we live in a digital world. Look at how we're communicating now.
Yeah.
Look at how much, frankly, the pandemic has forced us to learn how to collaborate differently, to work differently, and it goes beyond social media. It really is, making sure everybody's bits talk to everybody's bots in this day and age. But in order to do that, you still have to create that connection.
Yes.
Because at the heart of it all, we're all people, and there has to be that human connection. And I suggest that the 4 P's of marketing are kind of static, if you will. They're kind of being done to you, where if you're creating an environment where you drive engagement that results to some sort of a partnership at the end, and I won't take you through all the E's because it's kind of boring, wonky corporate stuff. But the bottom line is all about getting to connection so that you have a desired outcome. When you look at a company's license to operate, it really is their reputation. And when you look at what I do every day, I get to enhance the reputation of companies. And I personally choose to do that by strong environmental, social governance, a lot of corporate responsibility, and again, using what corporations can do to make the world a better place to enhance those reputations. So it all ties together, because really what you want is not just a sale, but an exchange.
Yeah, I've got a quote here. And by the way, the connection we had before we started this podcast with Sugar, our producer, he's wearing the New Orleans hat, and I'm with you. Connection is everything first, right? Can you connect? But he had a quote from you. It says, people want to be partners with businesses that do the right thing and that do good things. They don't just want to be sold anymore. So, by the way, I love your picture in this too. It's
oh my God. That was, so I'm going to give a plug for Muna and Richard Ellison. They are the publisher and editor of New York Moves magazine.
Okay.
And they do so much to advance women in the workplace. And every year they do an event called the Power Women event. And I was very honored and humbled to be named a Power Woman one year. And so that was the photo shoot from the Power Woman. It's a bit sassy. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little conservative, that, as far as putting myself out there. But yeah, that was fun. They really got me to come out of my shell a little bit, but they do wonderful work.
You are amazing in this, but also the chair. My wife, Carol, used to do fashion advertising. She produced fashion advertising shoots. So she really appreciated that shot too. I love it. The things that I was thinking about is how do you connect with people? So, do you have a connection, a way to connect exercise, or just a way that you first connect with somebody? How is it?
I wish I did. There was another gentleman in the Navy that we actually used when I was at Lockheed, and he was a former Navy SEAL.
Yep.
And now he does personality testing. And I have a very unique Myers-Briggs profile. I know everybody says that.
Tell me.
But so can I tell you a little story leading up to it first?
Yeah, of course. Come on.
So, when you work in aerospace and defense, or you're around the military culture, you kind of can seek each other out in a public venue and kind of know that they're part of the ecosystem. So it was the night before our workshop class, where we would be in this class all day long with this, for lack of a better term, personality profile, former Navy SEAL.
Yep.
And I am the social chairman of the group. Oh, hey, are you with Lockheed? Come on, have a drink, and it's kind of what I do. Yeah. And I saw this gentleman, and he was kind of scary looking, and he had a ponytail, and he was just staring at me like the whole time. And I remember being really, really, really creeped out. And it's that moment when you walk into class the next day and he's the teacher.
Oh,
And so he walked over to me as he was handing out the packets with everybody's profile in it. He slams it on my desk and he says, "I knew it was you." I apparently have the same profile as one of his sons. And one of the traits of that particular profile, which is the ENFJ, is that ability to just connect quickly. But I don't peg a high E. So I actually recharge quietly by myself as an only child.
Yeah. It's funny how that Myers-Briggs, we took it at the Naval War College, and everyone gets their profiles back, and ESTJ, was typical for our industries, and I was almost the opposite. I was one of those extreme ones. I mean, I still was E, but I was F. I was feeling, I was perceiving, right? And
ENFJ.
Yeah, is that what you are?
ENFJ. I don't know what I said before, but maybe I got my letters mixed up.
No.
But yeah, ENFJ. Yeah, because you're right. The T is, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're very similar in that regard. And I remember the discussion around it was that, that's not normal, right? And so I thinking by bringing that, as you talked about, the inclusion and diversity of thought, not just people, right? And when you bring that into a team, especially the feeling part, I think it makes such a difference. I know in the Glad to Be Here debrief, we don't just go right into facts. All right. We actually go into feelings first. How are you feeling about the event? What's going on? Tell me about that, because I want to connect to someone's heart first. And then, yeah, we'll connect the heart and the head. When you started the Aflac, I'm going to pivot for a second, because when you were at Aflac and the Duck, did you start that? Did that come from you?
So I wish I could take credit for the Aflac Duck, but that the Aflac Duck was born January 1 of 2000 because the CEO was a brilliant marketeer. And he came up with a campaign. And if you recall, Armageddon was going to happen January 1 of 2000 because it was Y2K was going to crash the universe. So it was really cheap to buy media time at the time.
Oh.
So he blanketed the market. The little cute, adorable duck was born. Now, what I will take credit for is my special Aflac Duck.
Yes, that's what I want to get to.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Oh, I could talk about it all day long. It's one of the most rewarding moments of my career. It is a social robot that is basically a caring companion for children going through cancer treatments that, much to Aflac's credit, gave it to all newly diagnosed children in the US with cancer and grandfathered in everybody else who was going through treatment, and not just the US, but also Japan, which is where 75% of Aflac's business actually resides, is in Japan.
Interesting. Free
of charge. And all I can tell you is just go to the My Special Aflac Duck website and watch the video. I can share, I was at Children's National with a Washington Post reporter, and I will try not to cry. Several years ago, he was doing a story on My Special Aflac Duck. And it has a port just like the child. And when the port is accessed, it develops a heartbeat, it nuzzles with the child. It has feeling cards. So if you've ever been in a hospital, somebody's coming in every 5 minutes asking you how you're feeling. Well, imagine being a small child who doesn't understand or appreciate that they're ill, or they're angry because they're not outside playing with their friends, or they're in pain. So what the duck does is it allows the child to take back their power through medical play. And there are these RFID emoji chips with these different expressions, because everybody speaks emoji. Oh. So John, if I were to go into your room, I'd say, John, how's your duck feeling today? And you would pick up the emoji and the duck would act out the emoji.
Really?
And there's an app for that. And the kids can also blast off to wonderful places and play music and do all sorts of wonderful things. Well, that project was my baby. And we launched it at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, the one thing you could not buy. We brought it there in prototype. We ended up doing 400 media interviews in 4 days. Media who had seen everything would like see it and weep, because we showed it engaging with children in videos, and it was bananas. We won Best of Show, Tech for a Better World. Time Magazine named it a top 50 invention of the year. It was just the most rewarding project. But getting back to that reporter at Children's National. So
first off, you gave me goosebumps when we first started talking about it, but it's gone from goosebumps to like this warm feeling of holy cow, the impact that had. So keep going though. This is cool.
Corporations making a difference.
Yes.
So the reporter from Children's National and I are meeting with this family, and they have twin boys. One has leukemia, the other is cancer-free.
Okay.
They were diagnosed, or he was diagnosed rather, when they were about 2 years old. So nonverbal, really. And he said, the father told us that I struggled, get ready for your goosebumps now. I struggled to explain to my children what was going on, why one had to be in the hospital, having surgery, getting poked, and the other didn't, until this duck, and I could act out with the duck what was happening in a way a child could understand, because they were 4 at this point.
Wow.
But wait for it, John. He put them together. And he said, now show the lady how you two communicate. Why don't you feel like playing with me today? Mm-hmm. And he puts the green emoji up, and the duck accident.
Wow. Unbelievable. Thank you for, I love that you can feel your emotion, right? Go well beyond the heart there. What inspired you to do that? How did that whole come together?
Well, someone had an idea, and it just wasn't viable in its form. And I'm kind of Mikey from the Life cereal commercial.
Are you?
Look at my, if nobody else wants this dog of a project, I have made a career out of taking the projects no one else wanted. By the way, that is probably the best tip I could give somebody is just do that. And so took it, built on it, made it viable, made it expand. We went into Japan 2 years earlier than we anticipated. And really just absolutely amazing. And oh, by the way, for anyone wondering how this has a positive impact on your business when you do the right thing, your reputation, being your license to operate, we did a survey of the country 6 months into the launch of the program at CES. We had not spent a dime of advertising on it. It was all public relations efforts. 15% of Americans had heard of the program. And of that 15%, 100% were more likely to buy an Aflac policy because of my special Aflac Duck. So people will reward you for doing the right thing. The good news, it's not that hard. Wait till you see what I have up my sleeve for SAIC.
Can you give us a little hint, or are we just going to have to wait?
Think STEM, robots, and holograms.
Really?
I haven't told my boss yet. I sprang it on my team today, and they're kind of like in a state of shock a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to do it. We're going to get there. Wow.
Wow. What's your team like? Tell me, how do you describe your team?
Oh, I love my team. We've been together 6 months. And so I've actually really enjoyed and appreciated the talents that everybody brings to the table. I've got one gentleman who was the vice president of IR, and I stole him, and now he's working with us on ESG. I've stolen some people that I've worked with in the past, and that's always wonderful when people are willing to come back to work with you again. It's very, very special. And we've got a real diverse cross-section of people with military experience, with commercial experience. Pretty much blended gender-wise, 50-50. And I'm real proud of SAIC for being at parity at pay for gender. That's really, really an important value to me. And I think that's what attracted me to SAIC in total, was they're a very values-driven company. You mentioned it earlier, the mission, the values, but you feel it. You don't just see it. And remember, people hear what they see.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And so I love what you just said. I was just doing another interview, I think it was last week, and she was a professor on happiness, right? Okay, which I think is cool. I love learning more about happiness, a researcher and all that. And she made a comment like this. She goes, "We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are."
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it.
I'll say that again because it had that impact on me too. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And that your comment just triggered that remembrance in me. Because it's how we show up, right? How we live. I mean, that's how I think not only our perceptions are formed, but how the world sees us.
That is amazing. I love that. And I wanted to tell you, you asked me about my team. So I've got marketing,
Yep.
I've got communications,
Yep.
I've got ESG, but I also have a very unique revenue generating organization in my portfolio. And what we do is the Marcom work for a lot of 3-letter agencies who need highly cleared people to do the work. And guess what we just finished for the US Navy?
Oh, what's that?
Their DE&I training.
Did you? You created it?
Our team created it. And I couldn't be more proud. You talk about waking up in the morning and wanting to do meaningful work.
Yeah.
Everything we've talked about. I mean, everyone thinks corporations are numbers, numbers, numbers. And yes, that is a part of it. I've spent the last 3 weeks working with my team on our annual operating plan. It does not make my soul sing. It's part of the job and I love my job. Yeah. But being able to do things like that I know will have a positive impact on somebody. It's just a really powerful thing, and it's worth getting up in the morning for it.
Well, how do you tie in the profit with the purpose, right? I mean, those are two big words. And we talked a couple of ways that you're doing it. Everybody would like to do it. And by the way, I want to concur. I've seen your companies. What you do is amazing, and it makes a difference in people's lives. How do you actually do both at the same time?
Very thoughtfully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of purpose washing going out there, Jon. And I mean, I hate to bring up the negative, but the truth is we all smell a rat when we see one. Yep. And I think some companies have gotten it wrong. Now it's interesting with this evolution of CSR to ESG, where we're actually being asked to put numbers to things and we're being held accountable. And it's driven, interestingly, by the Wall Street community.
Oh, that is interesting.
All of these ESG things, and it's interesting. Environmental, that used to be environmental safety and health. Now it's much bigger. It really is caring for the planet with purpose and making sure that you have a sustainable business for the long term in both ways that you can interpret the word sustainable. Yeah. CSR, again, love it. And then the G, is a bit more mature. That's the one that's statutory. That's the one that everyone knows what an SEC violation is and what one is not. Right. So it makes it easier actually to explain your efforts. But when you've got Larry Fink out there with BlackRock sending CEOs a letter every year saying, pay attention to these things because we're going to grade you on it. When you have large investment funds who are voting against board members who come up for re-election, when you have activists who are using these things as wedge issues to try and get seats on your board, it gets a lot of attention and it puts a lot of rigor around some things that in the past were nice to do's and good things to do. Now you kind of avoid them at your peril. So the more rigor we put into it, the more the street asks for it, the more your company doesn't want to end up on the do not buy list if you're a public company. the more impact we're all going to have.
Yeah. And you know what I think you're doing is changing perspectives too, right? Because it bothers me when people say, oh, it's just corporate America being greedy, because I actually don't see that. I get the rare privilege, to be with maybe about 80 to 100 corporations a year, right? And you really start to see how much people care, just the example that you gave, right? And I actually see the opposite. I see corporations caring so much and be able to impact so much because of the power of that. So where do we take it from here? What's the best next steps?
Oh my gosh. I think, the numbers don't lie. And corporations at the end of the day do have a fiduciary responsibility. So as much as people like me can tie doing good to good results, and it's not that hard because we have so much data, and it all says companies that do good for their communities perform better financially. Full stop. What more do you need?
Well, give me an example. You gave me one earlier with Aflac, right? But do you have another example of where people do good by being good and it's profitable?
Well, it's not going to be sexy. It's going to be kind of a corporate wonk example, but there's a company called RepTrack. And what they do is they take qualifiable data and turn it into quantifiable data. So they survey stakeholders monthly, and they take a model and they run it through the model, which basically says there are 7 dimensions of reputation. Those dimensions are weighted by industry. There are 23 attributes behind those dimensions. I tell you, this wasn't sexy. I mean, it is to me, I'm a wonk, but I love this stuff. And the output of all of that information is a number, and that number is your pulse score.
Oh, I like the word pulse score.
Yes. And so every month you look at your pulse score in comparison to peers. And if you look at best of breed, the real world-class people who are doing this very well, like the Unilevers, the Patagonias, the Starbucks, the BPs, the people who are kind of known for this stuff, man, their pulse scores are off the charts. Wow. And so what you want to do is learn from them all of their good philanthropy. And it is about throwing money sometimes at good causes. We do fundraisers for Feeding America. We do fundraisers for Homes for Heroes and things like that. But really, if we want our employees to be proud, we want them to engage. And so we don't just give an organization money, we create volunteer opportunities for our employees to engage with that organization.
Hey, maybe you can help me. I'm going to use your just amazing CMO skills and all the communication skills you had. So something that my company started doing about 12 years ago, we call it the Glad to Be Here Foundation, right? And this is how it came to be. I always wanted to give back, but number one, wasn't making much money at the time. Okay. And I also wasn't sure how to do it. So I felt a little guilty. And I said, well, I'll wait till I'll make a lot of money, then I can give back. And I realized that's not a good strategy, right? So I changed my strategy. I said, starting tomorrow with the next company that hires me, I'm going to give 10% to charity. I'm not going to tell them I'm doing this, by the way, ahead of time. We're just going to give 10% to charity. And that started, right? That started 15 years ago. And then what we did is we just switched it. We went from not just giving 10% to the Glad to Be Here Foundation, but we let the company pick where they want half of that to go. So it ties into every event, because so many events that we've been together, they have a purpose. I'm going here, tomorrow to another event, and they're building bikes, for kids, or they're doing, Operation Gratitude, right? There's so many ties in. So that's what we're currently doing. How can we do more though? Because I don't want it just to be, well, we're giving 10%. What can we do to make that impact even bigger?
Well, you talk about connections. There is no greater connection than, I mean, given the nature of your work, having a recipient on video doing a thank you as part of your presentation We're benefiting today thanks to you and your involvement and your engagement, especially if it's kids. They can hold up little signs. I mean, something as easy and as sweet as that. Or you could go full blown. Let's put together some bikes outside over lunch or something. But just especially when it's the real recipient and people can see it's real and feel a connection person to person, to know that they're involved with something greater than themselves. And that's a good thing.
You know, I do it not for, I don't even need the Glad to Be Here Foundation or me to be recognized at all. What I'm trying to tie back into is the corporations are already doing this, right? They're already doing good work. I just want to highlight the good work that's already being done. And, you know, just getting you out there with all the good work you're doing, I think is a part of it. So I'm constantly trying to think, you know, how to tie back to them. Right? How to tie back to theirs. You know, my wife and I have, we actually sponsor, I think it's 47 kids now in 47 countries around the world, because, you know, I'm thinking we're all more similar than we are dissimilar. Let's bring us all together. And here's my goal. I want to sponsor a child in every country in the world to bring us all together, right?
That is wonderful. That is amazing. So much impact. And it really goes to show with intentionality and focus, one person can make a difference.
Well, you know, you've done it so much. Okay, so just for my crowd, I want to go back to New Orleans because I want to know what your favorite restaurant is. I heard it was Drago's. Is that true?
Okay, so I love the Satanovich family and I love Drago's. If you go to Drago's, get the charbroiled oysters. And oh gosh, Mr. Tommy, he's just a great, great man, wonderful family. But yeah, that is my favorite for charbroiled oysters for sure.
Well, that's not me. That's Sugar. My producer found that and said, you got to ask her about that, you know. And of course, there's Cafe Du Monde, but everybody knows about Cafe Du Monde, right? I mean.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you're in the mood for.
Okay. Talk to me.
Okay. So best burger in the city is in the dive bar. I mean, total dive in the back of the French Quarter. And it's called Snug Harbor. No, I'm sorry. That's their upscale restaurant. It's called Portical.
Okay. All right.
And they have these, of course, all their drinks come in plastic cups. Because you know the law there, it's legal if it's in plastic.
Oh yeah, you can
walk around
the street and all that. Yeah,
can't drive, but you can walk around. And then they have something called a monsoon. It tastes like fruit punch. Fair warning, it is not. There are like 4 types of rum in it. It's their signature drink. They pour it 2-fisted to a 4 count. It is absolutely insane. So be careful the monsoons. Enjoy the burgers. Then you've got, you know, Commander's Palace. You've got Ralph's on the Park, very elegant, very romantic, which is another Brennan family restaurant that overlooks City Park. It's beautiful. Dookie Chase's, if you want to get that real good Creole food, that's always brilliant. Yeah, you can't go wrong.
What's the one? We used to fly the air show in New Orleans, across the river there. We'd come back and we'd get those sandwiches. It's a corner bar. I can't remember. It was Drip, the French Drip. The
Mothers.
Wall
Street. Yeah. See, I know these things.
Oh, you got it. I still, to this day, I mean, just saying the word, I start to salivate, you know, because I was like, oh, that tasted so good. So good. Hey,
it's called a debris pull boy.
Oh, is that what it is? Debris.
Yeah, because they take the debris off of the roast and then just all the juice and it's divine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to read a couple of things because I want to dive into these real quick. Is you were the inaugural inductee in the Women in Communications Hall of Fame.
I was one of 4. Yeah.
What's that?
I was one of 4.
One of 4.
I was in the inaugural class. Yes. Very, very humbled.
And what year was that?
It was actually during COVID. So it was lovely. They sent you your plaque and it's a great honor, but I just can't wait till we can all get together again. And that's a Reagan Communications is the organization that sponsors that. Diane Schwartz and her team, and they just always do such a wonderful job.
Well, the other thing too, you were named to Latino Leaders Latina 100, top 100, right? And 2019 Latina Style Corporate Executive of the Year.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
So I have a very good friend, Carmen Terzak. She's from Venezuela, and I'll be seeing her here in about 3 days. She is one of the chairs of Mayo, and she was running an department, and she used to. She's Latino, obviously. Used to sword fight, the saber. In the Olympics, which is interesting. But you remind me of her because of the energy and the positivity to make a difference, right? And to use all these things we're talking about, the numbers, the facts. I mean, allowing corporations to work for the greater good, right? I just want to say thank you. There's so many accolades you had here. From a CMO standpoint now, tell me, what's the key? How do you get a message across in a way that people want to hear it?
It's about relationships. It's about meeting people where they are. And I would be remiss if I did not shout out to Robert Baird and his beautiful wife, who produced Latina Style and gave me that amazing award. And they're wonderful people. They really are. But yeah, you've got to meet people where they are. And I do a lot of geek things too. I mean, there's a company in Chicago called the Rock Company that does actual brain mapping as people absorb messages. How do they process messages and what happens in the brain, so that you can make sure that you're having the most impact with your messaging. Obviously, if you're a corporation and you're going to spend big dollars on an advertising campaign, there's a lot of testing and focus groups and all of that. But bottom line is, if you really want to connect with someone, listen to them. That's a tip for anyone. You don't have to have a lot of money. You just have to listen.
What does the glad to be here mean to you? What does it mean to you?
Excellence. I mean, I keep coming back to the accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing a manager, leader, supervisor dreads more than the annual performance review cycle, right? Because you've got to sit down, you've got to give people feedback, you have to tell them something about improvement. But you're so worried about doing it in such a way that is not only kind and impactful, but that, you know, again, I go back to kind. You really want to be kind, and your work is so personal. It's such a personal thing. And I think that if we could just put the same level of thought and kindness into that feedback that you guys do, and you do it in such a unique way because you do it to yourself first.
Yes.
And you're harder on yourself than you would ever be on a teammate.
Have you seen that yet? Have you been able to adopt that into the company?
Oh yeah, a couple companies. Yes, indeed, because you know, and it has such impact, right? No one wants to not do a great job. I mean, John, nobody gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to do a lousy job at work today. Everybody wants to do a good job. Everybody wants to feel empowered. What is more empowering than holding yourself accountable?
Ah, beautiful. Yeah. I like that you tied it to empowering, you know, because I like to say there's strength in humility, right? And there's strength in vulnerability, actually. And so when you're doing that debrief where you look inward first and point things out, it shows a level of trust, right? This safe environment, psychological safety, not just physical safety, right? Now, how have you implemented it in the teams that you've had a chance to work with? How do you actually implement that process?
Actually, just by doing it in a staff meeting or post-mortem after a large event. Yep. Okay, what could we have done differently? And I started. Good. And it's amazing because you are always harder on yourself than anyone else could be on you. I believe that. Yeah. And then glad to be here because look, like the Blue Angels, I feel so fortunate to have a job that 1 million people would trade places with me.
Absolutely.
I really am glad to be here.
Well, and that glad to be here, you're impacting not only corporation, you're impacting governments, right? You're impacting nations. You're impacting lives of so many people. And I wonder about what is it that drives the impact, right? What is it that allows you to get up every morning and say, I'm going to make a difference in someone's life? By the way, what's your morning routine? I'm curious.
I'm a dreadful morning person. I try so hard. I try so hard to be a morning person. I admire them so much. But my husband and I, 30 years.
Wow,
and he knows. Just let me get to the coffee pot first. You talk about cultural norms in business, you need them at home as well. And that's a good one for us. But no, my morning ritual is usually, I don't really get moving. I kind of go through the motions. I start though with the morning news. I will turn on news when I'm getting ready, just to hear and find out my day and what's going on. And we have some things going on in the world right now that merit CEO comment. All right, so if I can do that, at 5 a.m., 5 to 6, and then get my day ready, and I usually jump in and start my day, my office day, which is a virtual office these days, at 7 a.m. And then I'll go until I possibly can, and it's dinner time.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. This virtual environment, has really extended a lot of hours for a lot of us. I have a quick tidbit for you, and that is try to start your day, or I like to start my day with gratitude, right? It's the very first thing I do.
Oh, I do my gratitude exercises in the morning too.
Do you?
I do. I absolutely do. I say my prayers and I do my gratitude exercises, and then actually I do before coffee.
There you go. Yeah. And, we start, we're just putting out this gratitude pack. Okay. So I'm going to send you it as soon as I get it done. And it's 3 ways to do gratitude in order to increase your performance. Because I think gratitude can be the center point for high performance, right? And the first is glad to be here, wake up in the morning. Okay, so what are you grateful for? And I like to do the present moment, the past, and the future, right? Very quickly. Yeah, and in my mind, and I remember people's faces, not just the event, right? But then what I do is I have this thing called a glad to be here reboot during the day. Because in communications, you get knocked off sometimes, all right? Something happens, boom. So how do you bring yourself back to center? Right? And not get stuck in the narrative of a downward spiral, right? And switch that. And then I just recorded right before you and I got on the glad to be here nightcap, okay? And this is how to send yourself off to sleep with positive thoughts, planting seeds that allow you to wake up feeling more energized and happier. So as soon as that's done, I'm sending you it because I can't wait for you to see it.
Me too. Now, is there going to be an app for that?
That's a great idea. We've thought about the app, but we're not far enough ahead to decide at that. But see, now I'm getting into your mind. Tell me, what are you thinking? What's the app?
I think the app has all of those on it, a series of meditations, for lack of a better term. But, you hit on something important. It is the gratitude piece because, right now it's the end of my day on the East Coast. And the urgent has overcome the important several times today. I'm thinking about, wow, these are the things I didn't get done today. How do I refocus? I'm so tired. And of course, I don't always get the opportunity to engage with someone that has so much energy at 5 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. So thank you for that. You will be in my gratitude exercise today for sure. But no, I love that. I can see this going off big because people need this. There's so much negativity out in the world, and it's just sometimes how we're hardwired. My mom was one of these people, and I think the reason I'm so positive is because I was not going to do anything my mother told me to do ever, was because she was a very glass half empty person. And you talk about connections with people. I saw how that impacted the people around her. And that was one of those teachable moments for me. And fortunately, I do have a pretty high energy level after some coffee that I can kind of go for a while with high energy. But it really, we're products of our environment, whether we realize it or not. So create the best possible environment, and your app can do that. Gratitude for kids.
Oh, I like that line too. Gratitude forgives. You talked about your mom, and I've noticed in leadership that a lot of times, whether it's a child, a parent, or in leadership corporations, you see what you don't want pretty obviously, right? When somebody does something and you go, if I ever get that chance, I don't think I'm going to do that, right? But you also talked about someone, your boss, that you want to emulate, right? And that. So give me another story of, because you have so many powerful experiences. One that you think the audience would go, I'm glad she saw it that way. What either something you don't want to do or something that you do want to do?
That's a very thought-provoking experience. I think that we all have a responsibility. And the women I admire are the women who climb the corporate ladder and don't pull it up behind them.
Oh, what does that mean?
So there are some people that once they have made it to the top, rather than reaching back and helping others to get the tools and the coaching and the things they need to be successful and follow them up the ladder, they just cut it off and pull up the ladder behind them. And there was something that I used to not do, and I'm embarrassed that I did not do it before. And it was, when college kids would call and say, can I talk with you? Or I think I was a little too intimidated to talk to college classes for a long time.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I mean, yeah. So I changed my paradigm on that. And I realized, well, maybe if they're asking, maybe I do have something valuable to say or valuable to share. And so now I do. And it's probably one of the most rewarding things that I do.
Isn't it amazing how, and I know how busy you are. So many people are, so busy. But if you take time out of your day to give back, right? And sometimes just to take a call from someone and share your wisdom, the results are incredible. I have a new mantra. Try this one out, Catherine. It's learn, grow, give. Learn, grow, give. I see you writing D. But I realized that I got the order wrong, that it actually starts with giving, right? And when you give, you learn more, and then you're able to grow more. And I find that I remind myself that every morning, especially when I get a request that says, hey, Jon, can you do this? And it doesn't fit, let's say, the business model, but can we give in a way that helps others? So do you have any mantras? Do you have any closing as we wrap this up? I'm thinking about any sayings, any mantras that you live by.
So it's funny you should say that. And I'm still going to push on you for gratitude for children, because seeing Sugar's little babies in those pictures, I think we need to start them young. There is that television show NCIS. Okay. And Jethro Gibbs has the rules, and they always refer to each other. Rule number 1, rule number 5, rule number 3. And rule number 1 on my team has always been, don't do anything stupid. Oh, really? That's your rule or your team's rule? Well, we kind of all adopt it, but I have for like 30 years. Okay. My mantra, I don't know if I have a mantra, but I will tell you, I have a little yellow sticky, and my husband makes sure that this yellow sticky is on my computer no matter where we move. It's probably the only thing that doesn't get broken. And it says, breathe, don't respond. Oh, I see it. Yes. Because there are those moments when somebody's just going to push your hot button. Yeah. And it's just better. They don't mean to do it typically. And they don't know what they don't know. So just breathe, don't respond. And remember rule number 1, Catherine, just stop.
So your husband understands the glad to be here reboot, because that's the second rule, is to breathe. Okay. The first step, there's 4 simple steps. I'll give it to you real quick. First step is just to stop, right? And it's kind of what you were saying. There's a gap between the stimulus and the response, right? And so try to be in that gap and just stop. And it's more of awareness, right? That's why meditation, you mentioned meditation, but any kind of focused exercises allows us to, in those moments, to just pause, to stop. And that's when I go into the breath, because it's always there for us, right? Just breathe, right? And actually, I like to do 3 deep breaths and make the exhales longer than the inhales. It'll calm down the nervous system, right? And then the third point is if you're still starting to get fired up, look around and get into your senses. So really go, is it cold out? What's the sky look like right now? What am I feeling? Because again, it tries to get us out of your head. And then the fourth one is just say glad to be here, because start to remember that in every challenge, there's opportunity, something to be grateful for. So it's funny, your husband nailed it. All right. Those 4 steps. And I use those all the time to reboot my nervous system. What do you think? That's, by the way, that was top secret. It's not out yet.
I love it. I love it. And I love making news too, when it's a good thing. And this is a very, very good thing. I love it.
One other little technique. And by the way, here's my sticky, and you showed me yours, and it says, life is a gift. Gratitude is its signature. And
I love it.
Yeah. And that's what I have that. Actually, I got that from somebody else. I didn't come up with it. And I just keep it on my monitor to think about. So I want to thank you. I want to end with a real glad to be here story, or just thought is, Catherine, I've been so looking forward to this interview. Sugar, by the way, our producer, you and he have such a great connection, and making a difference in just one person's life, I think, is important. But what you do is you make a difference in so many people's lives. And I've learned so much from you already today. And I look forward to learning more and to seeing what this new robot thing that's coming out, this hologram AI. So I can't wait. So thanks for being on the show, and thanks for your smile. It's warmed up my heart. Glad to be here. Over to you.
Glad to be here.